they've got one bad answer about this boat strike to another bad answer, and then the third bad answer. The bad answers are just overflowing. Here they were in a cabinet meeting yesterday with Pete Hegseth sitting next to Donald Trump.
Now, the first couple of strikes, as you would, as any leader would want, you want to own that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to be the one to make the call after getting all the information and make sure it's the right strike. That was September 2nd. There's a lot of intelligence that goes into that, building that case and understanding that. A lot of people providing information. I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do, and by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back, and the American people are safer because narco-terrorists know you can't bring drugs through the water and eventually on land if necessary to the American people. We will eliminate that threat, and we're proud to do it.
There's Pete Hegseth. He says he's a great leader. And what great leaders do is they first own the responsibility. Therefore, he went on to say that he authorized the first beginnings of this whole thing. Then he shed all responsibility over to Admiral Bradley, like great leaders do. They pass the buck. Since there was the double tap strike and they killed those folks that were still left in the water after they bombed these guys in the first place with absolutely, no evidence behind what is it they were accusing them of, then these are the two lanes that they're looking to figure for those two strikes. One is we sunk the boat, and Bradley sunk the boat, and number two, he eliminated the threat. So obviously the second point here is to claim that when you kill those people and commit that war crime that we've been talking about, what it actually is eliminating the threat. It's really bad. Nobody's buying it, but he was still talking.
So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike?
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded and fire and smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press don't understand. You sit in your air-conditioned offices or up on Capitol Hill and you nitpick and you plant fake stories in the Washington Post about kill everybody, phrases on anonymous sources not based in anything, not based in any truth at all. And then you want to throw out really irresponsible terms about American heroes, about the judgment that they made. I wrote a whole book on this topic because of what politicians and the press does to warfighters. President Trump has empowered commanders to do what is necessary, which is dark and difficult things in the dead of night on behalf of the American people. We support them, and we will stop the poisoning of the American people.
And Mr. Secretary, on the second strike, you said it happened more than an hour after the first. Did I hear it correctly?
I can tell you the exact amount of time.
Minutes, or you went off the road, is what you're saying.
I already stated my answer quite clearly.
I already lied my ass off. What are you still asking me questions for? He said he didn't personally see the survivors. That was the original question in this latest aspect here. He said, even though he didn't see it because of that fog of war that you guys don't know about, because I'm a military man, it's fog of war. Okay. Don't forget, they've also been asking him why it was. He previously said he sat and watched the whole thing. I think he advertised how great he was on Fox News before when he talked about this strike and how he sat and watched the whole thing.
So the president is sending a message to other cartels, right?
A very clear one. I can tell you that was definitely not artificial intelligence. I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented.
Now it's gone over to then him switching over and leaving in the middle of it because he can't be responsible for that second strike. He also can't be responsible for it because there was this fog of war. Who knows what's there? We just shoot, bro. That's what the American military does. And speaking of that same American military, what he then did was find a way to hide his sorry, cowardly ass back behind what he calls his war fighters. How dare you guys talk trash about our amazing war fighters? I'm gonna push them in front of me. Don't look at me, look at them. What a coward. What a sad, cowardly asshole this guy is. The good news is that nobody is buying this. He's got to depend on himself and this dumbass whose orders he's then following to then have lethality. Here's the dumbass that he's following behind.
I wanted to clarify something that you had said on Sunday regarding the boat strikes near Venezuela. You had said that you didn't know if the second strike on that one boat had happened, but you wouldn't have wanted it. Now that your administration has acknowledged that it happened, do you support that second strike?
Well, look, all I know is this. Every boat that you see get blown up, we save 25,000 on average lives, 25,000 lives. They've been sending enough of this horrible fentanyl and other things like cocaine and other things, but fentanyl right now is the leader of the pack, to kill our entire nation. Because a little speck on the head of a pin can kill somebody. It's very dangerous stuff. I know so many people where their sons were drug addicts. They had one little sample, and they died. They died. They couldn't believe it. As far as the attack is concerned, I still haven't gotten a lot of information because I rely on Pete. But to me, it was an attack. It wasn't one strike, two strikes, three strikes. Somebody asked me a question about the second strike. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved in it. I knew they took out a boat. But I would say this, they had a strike. I hear the gentleman that was in charge of that is extraordinary. He's an extraordinary person. I'll let Pete speak about him. But Pete was satisfied. Pete didn't know about second attack having to do with two people. I guess Pete would have to speak to it. I can say this, I want those boats taken out. And if we have to, we'll attack on land also, just like we attack on sea.
Well, that's not a good way to end the answer where you're trying to avoid any accountability for killing people. At the end of all of that very obvious dodging and talking point recitation, this guy then talked about how, but at the same time, I want to keep killing people. In fact, if I see anybody in the waters, I want him dead. How does this avoid anything about these war crimes that you guys have obviously committed? How is it that this moves anyone away from any responsibility that you need to hold for what it is that you did, that you bragged about at the time? Let's not forget, they bragged about multiple bombings like this. We're talking about this specific one. There's probably a few others where they did the same thing, or they were very proud that there was no survivors and they blew them all up from the beginning, and it was just as simple as that. Because, a pinprick of these drugs can kill someone, can kill someone's kid. He knows people whose kids have died from drug use. Well, maybe we should treat their kids like they treat poor people's kids that die of drug overdoses. Maybe we should say the same things that they say about poor kids, or maybe homeless folks on the streets. Maybe you should get your life together. Maybe there should have been a father in the home and your son wouldn't be overdosing on drugs. Hey, maybe if you watched and looked after your kids and made sure they went through a good education and went to a decent school, maybe you can find a way to blame yourself for allowing your kid to die of drug overdoses. Stop blaming other people. I thought this is the personal responsibility party. It's always personal responsibility for someone else until they're going to talk about their kids dying of drug overdoses. Why are your kids effing drug addicts? Junkies? Anyways, sorry. Let's move on to more of the defenses that are coming from this MAGA party.
The Caribbean boat strikes, the administration has acknowledged that there was a second strike in that attack in September, but they have not said if there were any defenseless survivors. Should they release the video to Congress, the unedited video to Congress and to the American public? And two, if the defenseless survivors were killed, would that constitute a violation of the laws of war?
I'm not going to prejudge any of that. As you know, both of the Armed Services Committee and the Senate and the House will be having hearings on this to review, and that's their role. I have been listening. Again, I was pretty busy yesterday. Didn't follow a lot of the news, but I caught up a little bit early this morning. That my assessment of this, my understanding is that most of the people that have looked at this, at least in a preliminary review, say that the admiral who ordered the second strike thought it was necessary to complete the mission. He's a highly decorated, highly respected admiral in the Navy, and he made that call.
Mike Johnson is supporting these folks, and true to Mike Johnson's form, he hadn't heard about it. He's been way too busy. This whole thing about the Department of Defense secretary being exposed for war crimes. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, knew nothing about it. He was too busy. What were you busy with? When is that follow-up question coming? How did you miss this story, Mike? How did you miss this whole story? What were you busy with? Covering up Epstein file situations while behind the scenes, making sure that gets swept under the rug since we're paying attention to this right now? I don't know. I don't know how you miss all this. I do know that he says that every time he doesn't want to answer a question.
And secondary strikes are not unusual. It has to happen if a mission is going to be completed. So I haven't reviewed the scope of the mission. I haven't reviewed that particular strike. I don't know what went into the admiral's decision matrix, but it's something that Congress will look at, and we'll do that in the regular process and order. I think it's very important for everybody to reserve judgment and not leap to conclusions until you have all the facts, and that's what we'll be uncovering.
Secondary strikes are not unusual, but also it has to happen if a mission is going to be completed. So violating the military order, violating international law, violating the acts of war, committing war crimes, apparently is very common, and it has to happen in order for a mission to be completed. This sounds like an incompetent, rogue, a corrupt administration, a whole party full of war criminals who support it. I guess that's not what I'm saying. That's what Mike Johnson is saying. It has to happen for a mission to be done. War crimes have to be committed for a mission to be completed. That's what Mike Johnson said, because he's run out of answers. He probably went to the back and got a phone call or a text from Donald Trump saying, "What the was that? You can't say that we're supposed to commit war crimes. We're lying, you guys. Didn't you remember the memo that we sent out was for you to lie?" What you should do is you should take some pointers from Mark Wayne Mullen, the coward that was hiding in the gallows behind some chairs during January 6th when MAGA was running through the Capitol chanting about how they're going to kill anybody that they can encounter that they don't like. That coward.
I have spoke to Secretary Hegseth. I have been briefed on this. I haven't reviewed the documents yet. We plan on doing that today. But I do understand that this was a proactive strike that was well within the authority of the president and within international waters to be able to go after these terrorist organizations. And once again, we haven't seen the video of it yet. If there was a second strike, it wouldn't be to just simply, take out the survivors, is because there was still a threat or an opportunity for them to run. Maybe the first strike didn't just disable the boat, but didn't destroy the boat, so it was able to still move forward. But I believe in the briefing that I received, Bill, that this was well within the authority of the president and Secretary Hegseth to use lethal force in this matter.
This guy's talking about how think about it. He says if there was a second strike, so he has to continue that lie about whether or not there was one or not, because he hasn't got the memo yet that they're supposed to then say that, yes, you're right, there was, but it was totally legal and it was Biden's fault. I don't know. Yeah. So first it's if there was one, but if after I've acknowledged that there is one, then we can talk about how it was to take out the threat. Maybe they were trying to run away. I think he said run away.
Take out the survivors is because there was still a threat or an opportunity for them to run.
They're in the water because that threat over the United States military, the strongest and most powerful lethality military in the world that we keep bragging about, still had a threat from two guys who were potentially injured and floating on some debris in the middle of the ocean. The threat I think that they were was to tell their stories and for people to know who they were before then Pete Hegseth said, kill them all.